to another team in another competition. Man United is going to take on Bayern at the Allianz here this afternoon in the Champions League. They just got thrashed by Brighton 3-1 in the Premier League. We can talk about Ten Hag and some of their issues. Before we get to that, though, let's hear from the former Spurs talisman, Harry Kane, obviously now leading the line for Bayern as they're about to play United today.
Obviously, you're facing Manchester United in the first game. Are you a bit more vocal in the team meetings ahead of this one? Are they tapping you up for information? And obviously, the manager knows all about it, having managed in England. But you sort of the mole in the camp, as it were, to be able to give them insider info.
Yeah, I think, of course, playing against an English side, I've had many experiences of that. So I think, maybe the players will lean on my experiences a bit. But teams change so much from year to year. There's a lot of obviously new players and a new way of playing. So, I think the focus will be on us as it is, every week to see how we can hurt them. And then, as always, I'll be trying to give little tips here and there to my players and the team to, try and help us be successful on the night. It'll be a tough game. I know they're going through a little bit of a tough patch right now, but they're a really talented team. So we need to be switched on in every moment and try and perform well.
All right, that was Harry Kane. We're going to bring in Ryan O'Hanlon now. Wrote a great article you can see on ESPN FC on the website side of things, breaking down his power rankings for the Champions League teams. Ryan, before we kind of run through that, I know Augie's got to go, so I do want to ask you, Augie, Bayern is huge favorites, minus 220 to win this game at home. In terms of the actual overall odds to win the Champions League, they're second favorites at plus 550 behind City at plus 200. Just your thoughts on this matchup, and can United somehow walk into Allianz and walk out with a point?
Look, no, I don't think they can. Look, the positive thing for United tonight is that it's match day one and they're in a group where they should progress. I think, Galatasaray and Copenhagen might give them difficulties away from home, but I think United can look at this as getting the worst game out of the way first. And they've got injury problems. I think Palestri will play tonight. I think, the back four is going to be a bit changed because they've got injuries. I think Reguilon plays, but so they're not going there with the squad or the strength that they need. But I do think that this is even if United are at full strength, I think Bayern away is a game that is a tough one for anyone in the Champions League. The record there is incredible, so they're just going to have to take this one on the chin, I think, and just hope to avoid a big defeat. Harry Kane's in great form, Bayern are flying, so I just think United have got to come out of this and maybe in a way focus on the game at Burnley on Saturday, because that right now is a bigger game because they need to get a result in the Premier League. So I think anything they get from tonight is a big result, but I just don't see how United can get it in the sense that they've got too many injuries, they've got too much form issues, and it's Bayern. There's probably no worse place they could go apart from the Etihad maybe, but I don't really see how United get anything out of this game tonight. And I think those power ranking numbers are right. I think United are miles away and Bayern are knocking on the door to Man City. Ironically, before I go, I think the one thing that I would stress this year, I think the one team most likely to stop City winning the Champions League this year is not even in the competition. I think Liverpool are the one team that could do it, and then the Europa League. So, get ready for City to win it again.
City plus 200 seems like pretty good money. That's rare to say in the Champions League competition. When it hasn't even really started outside of one day. Augie, thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time, man, and enjoy the matches today.
Cheers, guys.
All right, Ryan. Let's rip through those through your power rankings as you wrote on the ESPN website. Let's take us through what you see as you look through these teams and who's the most likely to win. I know City's one. Where does everybody else kind of fall in your mind?
Yeah, I think Mark made a good point. Like, the field feels weaker this year than it has in years past. I think teams like Liverpool have missed out. I think some of the teams like Lazio, some of the bigger league teams that qualified this year are a little weaker than usual. And then like Benfica is going through a regime change. A lot of the mid-tier teams don't feel like they're as big a dark horses as they are in the past. So even like, to me, City, as you said, are clear favorites. Maybe bigger favorites, at least seemingly bigger favorites than they've been in every year, despite, Kevin De Bruyne being injured, not really replacing Gundogan, kind of turning over a lot of the rosters. So that's my big takeaway, was like, it's Manchester City and then everyone else. But I think after City, it's probably Madrid and Bayern as the two most likely teams to take them down. And then I have another tier behind that, which is Arsenal, Barcelona, and PSG, which are like, I guess, three incredibly fragile clubs, I guess is the way that I would think about them. But after those first three, I don't think there are any other teams beyond them that have a bigger shout. So I think that kind of sums it up, right? That like I feel like PSG, Barca, and Arsenal all have real shots to actually make a run this season.
Stevie, how do you see it in terms of the rankings, but also like, is it City and everybody else? And I do think that was an interesting notion Ryan posited there. It seems like the competition in terms of teams at the top is not as stiff as it has been in years past. Do you agree with that?
I think so, yeah. I think Man City are by far the clearest favourites. And I think after that, it's tough. It's tough to hang your hat on anybody, really. You know, you can't. We're going to start talking about Real Madrid because it's the Champions League and it's Real Madrid. We're not talking about how they are on the field. We're not talking about they've lost Courtois and they've lost Militao. They haven't started the season badly as far as results, but they're not playing well. I mean, I just see a big group, and I include Arsenal and Barca and Bayern in all that. I think PSG have no chance of winning the Champions League. They're struggling in the French league right now. Never mind winning the Champions League. It almost seems like if Mbappe doesn't fancy it, then where's the performances or the goals coming from? So yeah, I think City way ahead of everybody, and I think you lump a load of them in together. Even Bayern, you know, Tuchel's talking at the weekend again about, you know, against Leverkusen, they completely dominated for 20 minutes and then disappeared for the next 20 minutes. I mean, that's something that's been happening last season under Tuchel, and it's happening again this season. I don't think they're particularly consistent defensively. Upamecano is struggling. And Ulrich in goal is not anybody's pick to be the goalkeeper. So I think you can go after City. You can go right through all these teams and pick problems. I'd probably think one of the strongest contenders might be Arsenal, because the other sides I see a lot of problems.
Stevie, let's stay on that real quick with experience, because Bayern hasn't lost in a group stage game since like 1998. It's ridiculous how dominant they've been in terms of group stage games, but they're always in this competition and they're always getting to at least the quarterfinals, it seems. Right. Arsenal has not been in it in 6 years. They still have a young team. A lot of these guys have not played, and Jorginho can come off the bench. They have guys that have played in Champions League games and had success, but by and large, the core of that team has not. How much, if at all, does experience in these European nights matter?
It does. I mean, you've only got to look at Real Madrid to tell you the experience matters. I just find it hard. You know, I kind of always tend to look at it on paper, look at it in black and white. And when I look at it like that, I'm not taking into account things like experience. I just kind of look at where the holes might be, and I just see a lot of holes in sides like Bayern and PSG. Whereas in Arsenal, I don't see any huge holes in Arsenal. I think defensively they're pretty solid. They're strong in the middle of the park, and they can score goals. That's why I'm kind of, if I'm going to hang my hat on anybody past City, that's why I'm veering towards Arsenal. As I said, I can see problems at Bayern, Barcelona. Again, I'm not entirely sure about them defensively this year. So yeah, I'm very negative right now, I guess you could say.
Well, you're positive on City and plus 200. So that's, I mean, like a lot of us are, which is sometimes that's concerning when everybody's on one side and Arsenal. But we're going to come back to something that maybe Arteta's creating a little bit of an issue with the goalkeeper situation. We'll come back to that in a minute. Last thing on Champions League, though, Ryan, in terms of, because in years past, whether it be Leipzig getting to a semifinal, I don't think anybody had the Milan derby being one of the semifinals last year. Yeah. Do you see anybody that, based on the groups and how they could lay out in terms of a potential bracketing situation, anybody seemed like a dark horse? I know you set out to win it, but to make a deeper run that we tend to see in the last couple of years.
Yeah, like to try to bring some positivity to this conversation. We haven't talked about any of the Italian teams, and I think there's early signs that maybe Serie A is a little bit stronger than it's been in years past. I mean, even last year, Inter, they had a very easy draw to get to the final, but they played quite well, I thought, in the final, and easily could have tied against City, if not won the game. And they've been flying this year. Napoli lost their coach, obviously lost Kim-min-jae to Bayern Munich, but they still have Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen up top. I think they'll still be dangerous. And even honestly, yesterday, like Milan, after losing 5-1 to Inter, they drew at Newcastle, but they totally dominated the game to like an absurd degree where they could have won by multiple goals. So I don't know if it's a cop out to say one of the Serie A teams I think will make a deep run. One of those three. I mean, even Lazio played okay against Atletico, and I wasn't fancying them. So I think Serie A is the one league that maybe feels like it's on kind of a little bit of an upswing, while all the other leagues are maybe stagnating around on a new cycle.
Okay, we'll take a Serie A lean. That's helpful. Before we let you go, Ryan, real quick, with the two big games, United on the road at Bayern, Arsenal hosting PSV Eindhoven. Are both those teams, the Gunners and the Germans, walking away with 3 points?
Part of me feels like every time we're talking about Man U being in crisis, they win, and then when we're talking about them like challenging for the title, they end up winning.